The results are in, and Americans have spoken. They are in favor of what Trump has done with Maduro. No question about it. But of course, we don't expect to hear that kind of information from all places like CNN, for example, but even they had to admit it. So before we get into this video, quick reminder, like this video, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.
Okay, U.S. military ousting Maduro. Pre-ousting, what you saw was the clear plurality of Americans opposed at 47%, just 21% support. Come over to this side of the screen. After the ousting, look at that. The support through the roof. Now we're talking about 37%, well within the margin of error right here of the opposition, 38%. It turns out Americans like what they deem to be successful foreign policy operations. And in this case, they view the ousting of Maduro, at least up to this point, as a successful one, and therefore the support way up.
Yeah, before underwater, now basically even. What about the idea of putting Maduro on trial here in the United States?
Yeah, you know, part of the reason why I think that the success number is way up, and you saw it here, what was it? It was 26 points in favor of opposition, and now within the margin of error, is because they simply put, don't like Nicolas Maduro. And in fact, they believe that he should be on trial for drug trafficking. Look at this, 50% of Americans favor compared to just 14% who oppose. So there are very few Americans here who oppose it. Even among Democrats, the opposition number is below, get this, just 24%, is below 25%. So this is something that unites Republicans. It divides Democrats. And at this particular point, support for the operation way up. And in terms of those who favor the drug trafficking trial for Maduro, that is a clear plurality.
Yeah, it doesn't really even divide Democrats on the idea of a trial. They all seem to support it by and large, only 24%.
Now listen, even the 24% of Democrats that are still out there that are actually against this, which I don't understand how you could possibly be against it, are really communist. I mean, what other explanation really is there when you're looking at what he did? He was an objectively bad person being brought in, and they would hate Trump anyways for doing this. You know, it kind of goes back to that old thing people used to say a few years ago where they say, you know what, Trump could literally have been the one to have captured Hitler and they would still sit there and have a problem with it. He could cure cancer and they would have a problem with Trump in some way because that's their line of thinking. But even CNN of all places has to admit the truth that this was an objectively good thing that took place. Objectively, we have to look back at the past administration and see that Maduro literally thrived under Biden and Harris. I mean, had no problem doing what he was trying to do. And, you know, Biden putting some bounty out there was not enough to do anything because he himself was never going to take any action. We're seeing action now, and that is resonating with Americans. So we have this person's tweet here saying, if people think it costs too much or takes too long, they will oppose it. If it can happen virtually overnight and no protracted conflict or minimal American casualties, then many are going to see it as a win-win on that basis alone. And that's where I land on this as well, because ultimately, if we see that there's an actual process that has been in place and is being executed perfectly, then that's what we want to see. That's the one thing that Trump has been very, very good at, is when he takes action, it's very swift, it's very quick, and it's very efficient. No one can really argue with the results. So here's another clip of CNN as well doing a commentary talking more about this as well.
A recent Washington Post poll finds Americans pretty evenly split on the operation over the weekend. 40% approve, 42% disapprove, 18% are unsure. When it comes to who should decide the future leadership of Venezuela, 94% say the Venezuelan people, 6% say the United States. One thing I have to say is, like, this was a very successful military operation. The idea that 42% disapprove is a higher number than I would think. It says to me that the American people are thinking not just about this operation, but maybe more about also, well, what comes next?
Well, also it's Trump. I mean, 42% of the American people would oppose it if he cured cancer personally in the Oval Office tonight. I mean, there is a reflexive opposition to Trump. It is the entire platform of the Democratic Party, and to the extent that that's how their leadership tells them to act, that's how the Democratic grassroots are going to see it. You see Democrats today who long came on this network and others and called for Maduro's ouster, demanded it, now saying they oppose the fact that Donald Trump just arrested Maduro. This reflexive opposition to everything Trump does is corrosive of the Democratic Party, and you shouldn't look at these things through that lens. You should look at it and say, highly competent military and law enforcement operation, we got rid of a bad guy, there's a better future for Venezuela, and it's going to inure to the United States' benefit. But, you know, it's Trump, so everything must be opposed if he's for it.
Well, it's not. So pretty much exactly what I was saying there. But the conversation goes a bit deeper because it's not simply just about what action Trump is taking here. It's about how this affects America, because we talk about America first, and a lot of people are maybe making that argument, well, is this really benefiting us at all? And the truth is, it does actually benefit us as the United States, because it actually hurts other countries that we're in basically direct conflict with, like China, for example. So a lot of people don't realize they're talking about the oil there, and they know that they have a lot of oil, but I don't think they quite really understand exactly how much oil that Venezuela actually has. So Venezuela actually holds about 303 billion barrels of oil currently. And for scale, that essentially equals out to about 5 to 6 years of oil supply to the United States alone. So if we were just using that, that would last us for 5 to 6 years, which is an insane amount just for scale. But the real kicker here is that China actually purchases 60% of the oil reserves from Venezuela, and Iran actually purchases 20% of that. So literally 80% of the oil that is coming out of Venezuela is actually going to Iran and China, two of the biggest kind of conflicting powers in the world today. So the real America First benefit here is not so much of us using the oil itself, but actually cutting off supply to mainly people like China. I mean, think about it. How is China going to sustain themselves if they are not able to get access to that? Right? That's a big amount. That's 60% of their oil supply is coming from there. So if they lose that, that could really cripple their entire country. I mean, this could literally affect the invasion in Taiwan. It can also hamper their ability to actually compete in the AI space that's going on right now. So I think it's a clever situation that we're in right now to try and do this. And I think we have to think a little bit more broadly speaking when we're looking at the whole world economic and how that actually helps the United States as a whole. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below about this entire situation. What do you guys think about the videos played there on CNN and them having to admit all of these things? But with that being said, I thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.